Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Spiral Up. I'm gonna dub this as season two because it's been a while. It is year 2021, and for the first episode of this year, might as well start a new season because I've went back to the drawing board on the specifics that I want to um, accomplish or just like get through to my listeners. So yeah, it's gonna be quite interesting. Actually, let me take off this headset. For those of you watching, thank you for watching. Those of you listening, if you didn't know, there is a video version of this podcast. It will be linked in the show notes. But yeah, hello, hey, this is quite quite the comeback. It's not really a comeback, but it's been a while. I actually, fun fact, a couple weeks ago, I did record an episode of the podcast, and I think I was talking about change, but I felt like I don't know, change is forever coming, and it didn't feel like I was bringing a lot of value, right? And that is basically like my new proposition. I want to bring value. So sorry for this long-winded intro because these first 2-3 minutes is just me saying hi to you guys and thank you guys for listening and tuning in. But yeah, for the value, for the title of this episode, this episode of Spiral Up, we're going to be talking about the Pareto Principle. The Pareto, I'm probably butchering the name, but I'm pretty sure it is the Pareto, Pareto principle. And yeah, it's quite fascinating. And I was doing some further research to truly understand what the Pareto principle is. And it's kind of blowing my mind and making me rethink how I want to tackle the things that I want to be doing. So I'm going to give you guys some backstory about the Pareto principle. And yeah, so the Pareto principle, it's, often known as like the 80-20 rule. And you probably heard that thrown around, but I don't think people truly understand the significance of it. So the 80-20 rule, it means, or rather, it states that for many outcomes, roughly 80% of consequences come from 20% of the causes. 80% of the consequences come from 20% of the causes. Now, this was introduced in 1906 by an Italian economist, Wilfredo Pareto, and he noticed that 20% of his pea pods in his garden were responsible for 80% of the peas. And he started to do some research. So he expanded this principle to macroeconomics, and he showed that 80% of the wealth of Italy was owned by 20% of the population. Quite fascinating, right? So then there's been a lot of research and studies, and like it's kind of crazy how this 80-20 rule applies to a lot of different industries, but it is very apparent currently today the richest 20% in the world amount for 80% of the wealth. I think it's like 82 or 83%. It's kind of crazy. For instance, computer science, Microsoft noted that if they only fixed 20% of the reported bugs, that accounts for 80% of all errors. So, focusing on that 20% fixes 80% of the errors. That's a pretty good ROI, if you ask me. There was, let me see here, in 1940, Dr. Joseph Juran, he was prominent in the field of operations management. He applied the 80-20 rule to quality control for his business production. So he demonstrated that 80% of product defects were caused by 20% of the problems in the production methods. So by focusing on and reducing the 20% of production problems, a business could increase its overall quality by theoretically 80%. It's kind of crazy. There's even some this real world case. There was this Harvard graduate student, Carla. She was working on an assignment for her digital communication class, and this project was she had to create a blog and monitor the success during the course of the semester. So she designed and created her blog, and was posting stuff and was like, why is my traffic not being like that of my peers? What's going on? Why does my website suck? And then she learned about the 80-20 rule. So because she, a curious mind, as Harvard individuals are, she saw that, this can be applied to anything, right? The 80-20. So let me apply it to my blog project. And so she thought, like, I've spent a lot of time and my technical ability in writing on this blog, but I haven't been focusing on the traffic, on that that digital marketing piece. So she decided that obviously the 80-20 rule, you still got to create 100% of the things. So for her blog, okay, I'm still gonna, instead of just focusing on the blog posts, I'm gonna focus 80% of my time focusing on the blog post, but let me focus 20% on my traffic and fine tuning. So then she had a running list of questions and was like, who's the top 20% of the traffic? Who's the top 20% of her audience? What top 20% readers is she trying to reach? And really, really expanding the 80-20 rule. And so then she adjusted and tailored her blog to these top 20% of her readers, to the top 20% of traffic comers, and she grew the traffic to her site by more than 220%. And it's kind of crazy. But this 80-20 rule, it's kind of, can be applied to a lot of different scenarios. I think in sports, it's 15% of the athletes in a particular league amount for 85% of the wins, and then I think it's and if you're talking salary for a job, or salary for a specific, sports team, NBA, NFL, or whatever, the top 1% of players amount for 99% of the revenue. So there is some correlation here. There is some insights here. So what am I trying to get at? What can you learn from this 80-20 rule? For me, it's making me rethink how I am going to tackle problems and projects because, a lot of times people always aim for, perfection, right? But nothing's ever going to be perfect. You want to get things to, MVP, or like a minimal viable product. If you're creating something, like, you want to put out more things, and then you get feedback and you iterate and you get better and better and better, etc. But for a lot of things, a lot of information that people learn, 80% of it is useless, right? That's what this rule is telling me. So 80% of the information you're consuming only amounts for 20% of, an outcome, but there is a core 20% that can amount for 80% of the output. Easy thing to digest. Say language, right? Say you want to learn a language, even the language that I'm speaking right now, English. 20% of the words amount for 80% of what is spoken about on a daily basis. So, and this is in, a lot of languages, and you can look up word frequency and like go down that rabbit hole. But pretty much, if I want to learn a new language, I need to learn the top 20%, the top 20% essential words frequency, and I will know 80% of that language. And do you think 80% is good enough to get by? I think that's more than enough to get by, because I'm pretty sure out of the English language, there's like 100 something thousand words, or I don't know how many words there are. But can I honestly say that I know 100% of my own language? No. But I'm pretty sure that the 20% that I use all the time is, the most important. So I was just, stumbling across this principle, and I've heard it before, and you hear it all the time, but, you never truly like dive in and learn about it. But it's not even like an 80-20 rule. It could be like 90-10, 95-5, depending on what it is. But there is a particular ratio that helps promote some efficiencies. So the valuable thing that I guess I'm trying to get through, because I'm just rambling here. I'm kind of spitballing and just putting my thoughts out there, because I just thought it was super fascinating to realize that, if you learn the correct, or if you focus on the correct 20%, it can amount for 80% of a change. In most companies, like the work that is done by the employees, 20% of the employees amount for 80% of the output of work. So then what are the other 80% doing? They're just lollygagging around, But I, took that and I looked at where I would work, my work history and the stores I worked in. And it's true, there is the 20% of employees that just work harder than the other 80%. And the work that they do amount for a ton of output, a ton of the work that gets done on a daily basis, which is, super fascinating. So I want to make sure that I am learning, especially if it's something brand new. I want to know that what 20% do I need to focus on? I kind of been thinking about that in terms with my own, efficiencies and my own productivity and my own interests. And how can I apply the 80-20 properly, to get the value? Because, if I focus on, say I'm trying to fix a car, right? And I spend, 20% of the time just cleaning the front left tire. And then the other 80%, I'm just, I don't know, changing the seatbelt or something. It's not going to be efficient or whatever. What goal are you trying to get at? Am I trying to drive faster? Am I trying to make sure that I have the cleanest front left wheel? Like what is it specifically that I'm looking for? So like I'm thinking about applying this to my YouTube channel, right? If I look at my traffic, and maybe I could look at, okay, who's watching my videos? Where's the top 20% from? And then look into what their interests are, and then I could tailor content that could fit them. I think a lot of companies also do this. I think with the Pareto Principle, there's a lot of companies where the 80% of their sales comes from 20% of their consumers, or 20% of consumers, or their top 20% consumers amount for 80% of their sales. Jesus Christ, so many percentages, and 80-20, I'm like getting all tongue-tied. So it would be smart for that company to not only, look to see who this top 20% is and learn about them, but if they're amounting for 80% of their company's sales, shouldn't you cater your efforts, your marketing efforts, and your product delivery to that top 20%? And so what if you alienate, the other 20% of, or the other 80% of consumers? Because if the top 20% are going to even spend more money and they're already making up 80% of your sales, I think you're going to be pretty good, And it's just super wild to really think that an observation so simple really, has a lasting effect that is applied and can be applied to so many different industries, So I implore you to learn more about the 80-20 rule, but the basics is 20% of effort amounts for 80% of the change. So making sure that the 20% that you want to focus on is the most important 20%, and that can do waves, make wonders in your life, and could lead to, I don't know, just a crazy productive, or development of whatever it is that you're trying to focus on. But the key thing is discovering what the proper 20% is, which is crazy. I think what colleges, say they teach 100% of something, right? 100%, but 20% is the most important, but they're not going to tell you what that 20% is. You have to figure that out. So I think that's what's the difficult part. Earlier I talked about Pareto noticing that 20% of his P's were amounting for 80% of the growth. He must have went through a ton of trial and error to determine that it was these specific 20% P's that amounted for all the other ones, because he's probably looking at all the other P's and like checking like, oh, this one doesn't do anything, this one maybe only grew one thing, but there is this core 20% that created 80% of everything else. So it's determining what's the most important thing. Yeah. And I think that's the difficult part, So I'm like looking at myself. I'm like, okay, I just learned this deep dive into the Pareto Principle. How am I going to translate it into, something that will work for me? I don't know. I'm like, I got the question in my head, and I think a lot of people should just like learn about it, so then it, your subconscious and your brain just starts working. So then you just have it at the front of your mind, right? So once it's at the front of your mind, now if I'm learning something, or if I want to, explore a new topic, then maybe here, I'll use an example of, say, I want to learn a new programming language, right? And I look at all these different articles and different curriculums and different programs. What are their commonalities amongst all these different sources, right? And then looking at a lot of finished product, and what is it that actually was brought to market? What was the things that were focused on? What particular code was used? What specific algorithms, etc.? And then compiling up a list, and then now I'm looking at, okay, you have this 100%, informational of this one specific language, but this 20% is the most important thing that I should be focusing on first. Then everything else will come afterwards. But if 20% of this information will amount for 80% of all that is being used, then I best need to know that this 20% is the perfect 20% I need to focus on. Okay. Oh my goodness, man. Maybe I should have picked a different topic to just come back into, but that's the fun thing about it. It's just been on my mind the past couple of days, so I wanted to just brain dump it out there. Yeah. I actually have another topic that I want to talk about, that I'm thinking I need to lean more into for myself. But it's not a tough thing to lean into, but it could be difficult to get right, if that makes sense. Anyways, we're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we'll talk about this little topic that's been stewing on my mind. Thank you guys for listening, and catch you back here in a little bit. Okay, we are back. Before we left, before the little break, I was talking about something that I wanted to tackle and really make it apparent going forward. And the thing that has been stewing on my mind is feedback. Feedback is a tough thing, but feedback is so important for everything. Because if you get honest feedback from a mentor, a coach, a really close friend, someone that you really look up to, or that provides you with a ton of information and value, or they provide just that insight that you're looking for, that feedback will help you improve. So if that feedback is what you're seeking, where are you going to get it? How do you know that you're getting good feedback? How do you know that you're getting honest, like legit honest feedback? That's a tough one, because, a lot of people get afraid about wanting to hurt somebody's feelings, or being too blunt, or maybe they genuinely could care less, so the feedback that they give is just like useless. It's not really going to help you improve, and maybe they don't even care that you want to improve. So how do you know that the feedback you're receiving is good feedback? And I think this is one of the most important things for any person to improve themselves on, right? You need to create a really good feedback system. And I've been looking at, myself, and I'm like, do I have a good feedback system? Some people so I've been, uploading some videos to YouTube, and they'll use the comment section as a feedback system. But how do you know that this feedback is, quality feedback? You don't know this person. It's just somebody on the internet. It could be a troll, And so you have to sift through feedback, and then that just makes it, monotonous or tedious. And then it's just like, you're like, whatever is, what's the point? And now you're spending all this energy on, trying to find the good feedback, when if you would have just received the good if you would have just received the good feedback first, then you could have spent that time that you would have spent, sifting through, learning about the new feedback. You could spend that time actually improving yourself, improving on the feedback, taking action on the feedback. So that's always a tough thing, is finding someone, a mentor, a coach, a close friend that will give you honest and beneficial feedback, because they genuinely want to see you improve in whatever it is that you're seeking feedback on. So that's, the importance of feedback. But what is also important about feedback is the person that the feedback is for needs to not have an ego. I actually am in the process of rereading, I think it's Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. Great book. But a lot of us have an ego. You may think you don't have an ego, but you got an ego. We all got an ego. We got to let go of the ego. That's funny. Not really. I don't know. But, if someone's giving you feedback, say maybe somebody has like the best intentions. They're giving you, like, they want to see you improve, right? But they know that giving you this feedback isn't the best feedback, but it's the feedback that you need. You hear this feedback, and then you're like, nah, you don't know what you're talking about. Really? Like, you're telling me that I don't know what I'm doing? Or like, you're saying that I did this wrong? Who are you? Like, and then now this is the ego, the personal ego, and now that's it. It's ruined. Like, the whole feedback system isn't going to work. You're not going to improve yourself because you're not even being open to receiving the feedback. Kind of crazy, right? So, in order for feedback to work, you have to be open to receiving any type of feedback, even if it is super horrible feedback. But if it's valuable and you trust the person that's giving that feedback because, you know, they have you in their best interest. They really want to see you improve. They're a great mentor. They're a good coach. This feedback is actually valuable. And if you are humble and you don't have your ego in the way, then you can take that feedback and you can learn from it and improve yourself. And then sky's the limit, because now you have a system that will spiral you up. You like that? You like how I plugged in, how I circled in the spiral up? But if you don't have that system or you're not open, then that feedback is useless, you know? So I'm zooming out. I understand this about feedback, and I like to think that I'm pretty open. Sometimes my ego could get in the way, but I'm like, all right, you know, fair enough. I won't fret on the ego. So then I'm like, okay, got to create this nice feedback system. How do you create this feedback system? I'm thinking, okay, maybe the best way to create a feedback system is to, you know, sit down with whoever it is that you will value their feedback. Talk to them and be like, yo, like, if I'm seeking feedback, like, do you really care? Like, straight up, like, ask them, be like, hey, do you care about my feedback? Do you care about giving me good feedback? Do you care about, you know, really wanting me to improve or to learn, etc.? Determine. You gotta vet. That's the word that popped into my head. You gotta vet this person to be able to determine if they are going to be able to give you great feedback. Once you know that they genuinely do, then you got to lay that groundwork. You got to be super open, transparent. Be like, look, I want you to be as honest to me as possible, because I want to get better. I want to achieve whatever goal I want. You know, you got to define it. You got to determine what it is that you want, what it is you're seeking, pull it all out, put it all out on the field, on the table, all that stuff. And once it's out there, now you got to be like, hey, so I want you to be brutally honest with me, but then you got to look at yourself and be like, I can't get upset if it's feedback that I don't want to hear. I got to put my ego aside, right? I got to make sure that I truly listen, really seek to understand, and really, really take it as the system that you're creating for yourself so you can spiral up. That's it. That's the move. But you can look at the world, you can look on social media, you can look on a lot of things, and there's a lot of feedback that is given that is useless and pointless. But there's a lot of people with a lot of egos, and there's just a lot of, like, you know, nobody wants to improve each other, help each other. There's a lot of, like, noise, but you got to sift through the noise. Yeah. Feedback. I've been thinking about feedback because feedback is important. I'm in this new role and I'm going to be having to give feedback. I'm going to be seeking feedback. And so feedback has been on my mind, and I wanted to share it with you guys because I think feedback is super important. Feedback, along with that 80-20 rule, yo, you can master and take over anything, right? I'm determining what's the most efficient, the most useful 20% of anything to learn for myself, and then I'm creating a feedback system that's going to improve myself so I get better vice versa. You could reverse it on somebody else. Like if you're trying to help somebody else improve, but like, hey, what's the 20% that you need to focus on? This is how any coach could be a better coach. Any leader could be a better leader. Any friend could be a better friend. You know, you can look at what it is that they're going through and be like, hey, let's determine what's the best 20% you should be focusing on. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to help you, give you some feedback that I think will improve you because I genuinely care. I want you to improve. You just got to be open to it. You can't have an ego. Like let's just talk it through. Like it's nothing personal because I want you to improve. And you're golden. The next thing that comes is you just got to, do this every single day. Constant improvement, compound interest, little by little by little by little, but you're going to get better. And then sky's the limit. But yeah. Whew. I feel like when I came back from break, I had like a better thought process, because like I said, I haven't filmed a podcast episode. Well, I filmed that like a month ago, but it was kind of whack. But see, there's me, not putting it out there to get some feedback because I'm wrapped up in my ego. I haven't talked about ego before on Spiral Up. Did I? I might have talked about ego on like my YouTube channel, but like I understand ego, but ego it's such a finicky little thing. Like there's things that you think you don't have an ego on, but you got an ego on it. And when it comes up, you may not even know that it's your ego, which is crazy. So that's just always fascinating to me. Yeah. But yeah, 80-20, Pareto Principle. Look it up, get some more details on it, but that's been on my mind. Feedback has been on my mind. And just like change, new beginnings. Like I am so hyped and motivated, you don't even know. And it's kind of hard for people to listen to this or to even understand what I'm saying, just because I've said this so many times before, and haven't followed through on what I said. But I am so hyped and excited for the future that I just want to just start dropping, just value. That's it. I want to give value. I just want to learn. I want to share what I'm learning. I just want to spiral up, continue spiraling up, like, because that's what I do. That's what I work on myself every single day. So anyways, if you're watching this, thank you guys for watching. As always, you found me. And until next time, just make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell, and then you'll know when I upload next. And for those of you listening, thank you for listening. Please subscribe and leave a review, because that will definitely help me understand and expand this little space on the internet. And if you want to give me some like feedback on this episode, please just head to the YouTube video and drop a comment. Give me some feedback. I'm open to it. Like, no personal. You can get as brutally honest or like positive, negative. All feedback is good feedback for me. So I really appreciate it. Appreciate you guys listening, and stay tuned for the next episode of Spiral Up. Peace.